had to choose the noisiest place to do this video. We have a bit of sound effects here because, I'm going eco with tarps, so it's a bit noisy out the back here. But I thought I'd come to you guys, which I will go inside in a minute because the wind's picking up, as it is going to be because we're moving into eclipse season. So we'll move inside and we'll do this video inside because I want to give everyone an update, both with the astrology, some of the energy that I've been picking up psychically, and touch base with all of you guys while this camera's jumping everywhere. How are we all in the collective? Now, it has been a while since I've come to you guys live. It's also been a while since I've given an update. So it's going to bounce around while I go to the office and then it'll settle down. How are we? Are we all in the house? Hi. We have a very interesting month ahead of us. I'm already studying the astrology and having a look at it. I'm like, oh, heck. How have we been? Now, there has been a lot of nausea lately. There's also been, so if you've been experiencing nausea, there have been a few symptoms that both with my clients and with myself I've noticed. And obviously in the collective of what's going on, some of us may be, hi Veronica, hi Jenny, might be saying, oh gosh, have we got the bug? Have we, there was a lot of throat chakra in February and March, maybe even in April as well. So if you've been experiencing a bit of the throat chakra, ball in your throat, and then you were clearing it, it was a common theme coming through with my clientele. And the funny thing is the ascension symptoms and the fatigue, depending on how much purging you've done and how much work you've done, will really impact the way you handle this energy. And, in energy healing and with my clientele, it is very important to actually, in your ascension process, deal with that actual aspect. So you do reach a point in your journey where it's almost like at a spiritual level, you have to deal with the ascension symptoms, and it becomes the prevailing theme of, especially for those of you that are twin flames. Many of you who are further back in the track, you will tend to find that there can be an egoic purge. Hi, Louise. As you move forward, you detach from that, and it's simply because your ascension symptoms are so heavy. Some of you will also get to a space where it's quite a distorted energy when you reach this point. You can move into complete detachment. And with that detachment, it's a real interesting kind of vibration because you're almost looking at it like you're very accepting of the situation. But the ascension symptoms are coming in. You're trying to do the inner healing and the work so that you can energetically move forward. But at a psychological level, we had all that Pisces energy because we had Chiron and Pisces, and any aspects Neptune's making, it reactivates that. Especially with now Aries being in Chiron, still with the Neptunian aspects making aspects to Aries, it will reactivate that wound again. So some of you might be saying, gee, have I done enough work? Why does this come up for me? It is very normal because of that one aspect I just mentioned. But it's also, you don't have to be completely perfect to reach a union state. So, don't try and micromanage your healing. Some of you who are very detached that purely do not want that connection anymore, there does come into the aspect, the psychology of it, which is not only the healing, but it's you're very fluid in the frequency of being accepting, but then psychologically speaking, it feels like a spiritual attack, I'll be honest with you. So you kind of subconsciously ask yourself the question, how could you get into another connection if you have that bombardment of energy? It's a bit like a third party energy. So that becomes a very difficult process in the path. Once you move into acceptance, it's almost forcing you to be alone. To the point until you can shift that vibration, you're more accepting of that, of what you can't control, so that you can come to a peaceful place. And that's when things do move into alignment. The energy at the moment, a lot of people are wanting to know, when coronavirus is moving. Hi, Cynthia. I just commented on Cynthia's picture. She was looking really, really gorgeous. So with the ascension symptoms, people are asking, where are we going? Where is their links in astrology linked to the virus, the pandemic? It is very much connected to the Pisces energy, which is Neptune and Pisces, and I'm keeping it on. Let me look on my chart. Oh God, I was looking for it this morning. I was like, where's this Neptune aspect? Okay, Neptune will be going retrograde on June the 23rd. Now, June is a very, very active month in the entire year. Now, around September, yes, we are going to get fatigued because we're going to have Mars going retrograde, which will activate Chiron. The reason I'm mentioning Neptune, we also will have Mercury retrograde, and we have an eclipse in Cancer closing out that cycle in June. So the most heated month really is June. And in July, between June and July, we do end up having 3 eclipses. So what I have noticed with astrology, I've kind of branched out in different ways where you're able to interpret and predict. It's sort of, it is predictive, but it's, how do I place it? You tend to get common themes with these aspects. The one thing is weather patterns. Now, I did notice with weather patterns, they were amping up more so in May. And that is because of the Gemini energy, because Gemini is linked to air. So there can be higher heat, more wind, more wet weather, more. So depending on where you are in the hemisphere. Now, I do believe when the eclipses flow through the lower hemisphere, there's more direct impact in weather patterns on the lower spectrum of the globe. And then when it's actually flowing on the chart at the higher degree, you get higher impacts on the other side of the hemisphere. But when it's crossing parallel, you get the two polarities, so to speak. But it does end up being global. So usually you find 2 weeks in to the eclipse cycle, which the first one's going to be on the 5th of June, you do tend to get that movement of earthquakes, tsunamis, things like that. So it's very common. Hi, Eddie. And as I mentioned, we're going to have 3 months of actual energy there. Now, on this occasion, Mercury is going to be retrograding in Cancer. So it's quite unique for Cancer and Capricorns, but it will directly impact all of us at a different level, depending on where it hits in your chart. And the reason I talk about that is so that energetically you guys can be prepared to understand what this is. Now, if we have been looking at working on those areas for the last 2.5 years, but the nodes, yes, the nodes have shifted, but it's ending and tying up that karmic cycle. In July, we'll have the eclipse in Capricorn. In June, we are having the eclipse in Cancer. Yeah, and I've got the moon rising for that. And my partner has Cancer and his rising is Libra. And so because we have the access of Aries and Chiron, Libras and Aries are hit in that dynamic too, so they enter into the equation. Then we have the Uranian energy in Taurus. So again, Taurus and the opposite one on the wheel directly gets impacted too. And that's why we have common themes with the astrology and who's having these deep transformations. Plus your own birth chart has those direct interpretations as well. So moving into June, because we're going to have Mercury retrograde and it's going to be in Cancer, it connects them with our throat chakra and movement. It's home. And the nodes ask us to move away from one old energy, which theoretically some can call it a past life, or from where we came, what we learned back there and what we need to move towards. And we were supposed to be moving towards the Capricorn energy. So if we have at a theoretical level done the work on that, June, July are closing those cycles out. And it is quite unique that we have so many planets going retrograde. At the moment, we have the nodes shifted. So we're getting those new themes, as well as we're still dealing with old energy of Cancer, Capricorn. We do have a slight break. It can be deeply psychological. The zodiac sign of Cancer is very much mind orientated. You guys are quite empaths. You directly, at a psychological level, you're going to have Gemini in your 12th house, and I've been deeply trying to research it. And it's more because, yes, it directly hits me, but you guys are my clientele. So, I need to be able to bring the information to you guys. I have noticed with astrology and, the further into it, and it takes years to actually absorb it. It's a bit like becoming a lawyer. You're never going to know 100%. You're always going to continue to develop it. The first part, when you get the 12 houses, between 1 and 6 is within your control. And then from 6 to 12 is an external energy out of your control. So the 12th house energy can be a direct scenario that is playing out around you that is directly out of your control. And it is going to be there for 2.5 years. But each person, and I watched a wonderful interview, I'll try and find it and I'll link it in the description box. They were talking about the aspects that each of them had in their own birth chart, and some of them had similar aspects. But with it, they all got a very unique way of experiencing that dynamic, which is very true. Although we can go into predictive astrology, what that direct energy is will be very unique to that individual. So with the 12th house, it can link into imprisonment, illicit affairs, psyche. Definitely cancers are very psychic. But much of it, I think, is more to do. It can also be what I'm predicting is the psychology surrounding the transit you went through. So some of you, it may be coming to terms with that, maybe seeing it from a very deeply spiritual energy of where you did have control, where you didn't. If you have been sort of punishing yourselves and feeling very guilty, it's a place, if you can just embrace it, where you can find the spiritual reasons why some of those things happened. And Cancerians are very, sometimes you're very hard on yourselves, but you're actually very logical as well. And you have that empathic connection to people around you. So you are a family orientated sign, but the shadow sign, which is Capricorn for you guys may not have been able to actually have the balanced home front. It might have been all work, and home energy might have been very disrupted, especially with the nodes being in Cancer and Capricorn, and at a collective level, Pluto was in our 4th house of home. With Mercury falling in Cancer, plus we've got the nodes in Gemini for 2.5 years, which is still, it's Mercury energy. So it's double Mercury energy we're getting to come through here. There can be a lot of gossip around this time. There can be a lot of hearsay. It's very important for us during this, and I would say 3 months, because at the moment, information overload. It's a lot of information that we're dealing with at a collective level. You need to be very, and I wouldn't say logical, but you need to be more, let's read more into this. Let's use our own physical minds to interpret what directly is going on. What is being hidden? What do I need to dive deeper into? And not just accept it as gospel, because we do need to be really using this time, especially with the nodes being in Sagittarius and Gemini. We're moving away from energies of instant gratification, growth. Again, each placement for each zodiac, which I'll try and directly connect in, to a separate video, and explain how for the next 2.5 years it will impact each zodiac sign. So I'll do one direct video honing in on that, that you guys can actually keep as a resource, so that when it comes up for you and I'm explaining it, you know directly what's coming up and what you need to move towards. Now, some of you will already be feeling this frequency, and that is perfectly normal as well. So we do have Saturn retrograding in Aquarius, which many of us are getting a bit of a view between now. Morning, Rebecca. And sleep patterns have been off, and the energy, because we are going to be having Neptune going retrograde. Neptune is making squaring aspects. What date did I have them there? I'll see on the chart. I'll see if I can see. Okay. On the 22nd, we're having Mercury squaring Neptune. So because Neptune is in the house, so to speak, we are feeling these energies. Now, Mercury squaring Mars on the 11th. So again, we were having that energy going on. And it does take on themes of Aries and Chiron as well. It directly links into the energy of the nodes having moved in. It is very exhausting. But, it's, how do I place it? it's needing to happen for a reason, and it's a cycle closing out. And even Shelley and I, when we were doing energy work, we were actually talking about the aspect of healing. And some of us can go into fight and flight. Some of us can be very angry and strict with ourselves and be saying, have we healed enough? Are we getting too triggered? Are we not accepting of the power that we do have and the power we don't? Because what we do have power with is directly what we do and how we fill our time. But if something at a psychological, spiritual level is coming up during lockdown, you need to be very gentle with yourselves when it is coming up. And I've been really practicing this myself. So when I find myself getting super busy, I do need to stop and actually ask myself, okay, Yildiz, is something going on with you? What are you avoiding? Because many times when we are filling our time with, it can be cleaning, it can be like, yes, gardening's grounding, but if you're busy at all times, even if it's not something you're doing on purpose, to actually stop whatever you're doing and sit is going to give you an opportunity to check in with yourself. There has been a lot of fight and flight, and I did mention that to Shelley. And I did say, it's almost like when you've gone through a spiritual awakening, and this really come through in my twin flame path, is that you were very obviously in the energy of being an optimist. And I'd said this to my daughter. I said, this really was my life going through. And I said, I was either stupid or I had a backbone of steel that was, again, stupid. Because when I would deal with anything, this is with career, this is with relationships, it was with family, it was with my health, you would just reach that glass ceiling and it would be no, no, no. And this spiritually is really what people have gone through collectively. So I'm not alone in this. Knowing that when you get to that, this energy lately of fight and flight has come through. And that's depending on where you have Mars placements. Some of you will deal with that in a sense of getting your crap together, and where you do have power, leveling up, preparing. What are your quality systems in your life? Where do you feel the common themes are that can hit your bank account? What do you feel is directly in your control to transform that? And I mean, we've been talking about, in the collective, people talk about global warming, looking after the animals, looking after the planet. What is within your control that you can do? For me, with that Mars placement, I directly look at what is within my control. And it's for a long time, because I have lived on a farm, I've always got to the place where when you're buying from the supermarket, you're always going to have lettuce that goes bad quick. So for me, simple things that can be grown in pots in the home can reduce both wastage and cost, and it's there and it's fresh. So it can be lettuce, it can be tomatoes, it can be spring onions. The spring onions from the shop, you can cut at the bottom and you can plonk in the garden and you've got them there. So that is something directly you can do that will alleviate to a degree of budget. Your meditation, yes, but it's also not micromanaging yourself when something's coming up and acknowledging why that energy is there, and do you need to make a decision because of that. Now, for me spiritually, I have found that fight and flight energy has come up, and it's because I dealt with those energies. Plus, I also have changed. So now you can't be in the frequency of this is how it's got to be, or how do I place it? The old version of me very much wanted a surety, which is absolutely impossible. There's nothing that's sure. So you do, in an egoic state, move into this codependent energy of, no, I need this environment like this in order to be safe. Now, when you've learned that isn't so, and you're doing healing on yourself and you're looking at it, you do come back to a very rational state. So it can feel a bit bipolar. It can feel like you're two energies. And this is how I explain it to Shelley. One aspect of you, the old version of you, is in awareness that you have healing to do, as we all do. Every human being on the planet does. When something comes up, to look at it from a very logical point of view, you are parenting yourself. So there can be something to the degree of, if X, Y, and Z happened, that wouldn't work for me. And that's okay. But you're trying to manipulate the matrix to create that little ecosystem bubble to prevent even having to feel that vibration. The thing is, while you're living in this one present moment, that's what you have control over. The variables, as per se, of what can happen, you will literally drive yourself bat, crappy, crazy because you're tuning into all the direct variables, which fight and flight energy does have. You're like, I'm waiting, this is too good potentially. So, and when you know crazies, I know some crazies, you're waiting for that because you're used to their frequency that way. The reality is you have power and you can make decisions and you can say no. And yes, sometimes that does mean it doesn't match the other person's paradigm of what could be. But it's about taking direct accountability of what will and what won't work for you. So a very unique situation played out for me during the week, and it was because I understand astrology and I'm moving towards it. And I was like, oh, crap, that could be horrible. And it was linking in with some of the aspects that were coming up with both myself and my partner. And looking at it, I was like, you got to look at it very matter of fact because it's such a broad spectrum. Like I said, many placements have very various ways things can play out. And being in this one moment is all you can do. Knowing the potentialities of shifts and changes, fight and flight is where you're getting to a point you're protecting yourself because you feel you would be ignorant. And again, it's linking back to that intuition I've mentioned for a long time. Your intuition is your best friend, but your intuition can be your worst enemy too. Because again, we go into fight and flight and we're like, okay, is something going to happen? I need to be very protective of myself. You're going to hurt me. X, Y, and Z can happen. So it's fixating on that energy and then not being fluid in the moment. We can live in various weather cycles. Plants can get to a point where they become resilient to environment. So too do human beings need to be. But it's a bit testing to go through that process initially. The nausea is very much linking with purging at the moment. There's been a lot of dizziness. Energies with psychic connections are very much there at the moment. And Gemini, when you look at it, is very Mercury orientated. You also could look at it as connecting in with 5D, especially with all the, energies of telecommunications and things to that degree. It's very nervous orientated energy. So your crown chakra, your third eye, your adrenaline glands, things to that degree. It's an upgrade of those energies, but you do find, and this is what I've found, is if you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's because the universe is wanting you to sit with the energy. Your dream state is also time jumping you at the moment, so you're jumping. Your guides directly are communicating with you, which Rebecca messaged me. I don't know what time it was. I'm always awake early anyway. Over here, I think it's something like 4:30, 5 o'clock. So when you're getting these downloads, yes, you do need to look at this. The Scorpion energy is very, very psychic, but it's the underrealm. So it can be dark energies that we're tapping into. There was a lot of purging of the negative frequencies coming up, and that was moving through Mother's Day. So if you were in a very fluid energy, it was like a wave of energy that come through us. And that has really been for the last 3-4 days. So when that energy's come through, that wave of frequency did really activate and tap into that. So some of you might have got very angry at yourself, like thinking, hey, I was quite leveled up. I was being very optimistic. And now suddenly I'm feeling like I'm at crash zero rock bottom. It will loosen up by the end of the month. I'll say that, but it is going to amp back up in June. Mercury will be going retrograde in Cancer. And I will bounce off and interpret each one just briefly. So the 2 placements for Leo, the 12th house, it will be very psychological. That of what is out of your control, making peace with it. and really moving towards the sixth house of your health. So if you haven't been looking after your health, the sixth house really links into health, daily routine, career sector, how it directly impacted you. And I do feel it's a very spiritual energy. So, for you guys that are Leo, get to a place where you are accepting of things. Try and close that energy out. We're going to have the eclipse in Cancer on the 21st, and it is at the critical degree. It's at 0 degrees, so it's bang, right? We're also going to have Mercury retrograding, and we're going to have an aspect Jupiter is going to make to Saturn and Pluto, I believe. So I'll talk about that separately. In July, we then will have a new moon in Cancer on the 20th. So it will be a re-energization of that and turning over that new leaf and directly implementing it. So be gentle with yourself in June. Start looking at that now. If it means, doing some meditation, sitting back, letting go of belief systems, checking in with mental health. 12th house is very cognitive, spiritual, emotional, skeletons in the closet. And we've got Venus retrograde as well. It's like, you can't make this up. Venus retrograde. Juno will be going direct at the end of the month, which is marriages, contracts, partnerships, collectively. We also have Saturn, Pluto. What else do we have? Jupiter. So this is the pocket of time that when we had the Saturn Pluto conjunction in January, it amped everything up. We moved into then the pandemic energy. There was very Pisces energy, February and March. Aries was bang, 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 with the energy of purging this. So I did say you will see a collective shift with that from May onwards. Now, any aspects you have to Pisces and Virgo it's health, because Virgo is very health orientated, and it can be psychology. Pisces directly is crown, and so there's the direct correlation of that Mercury energy. We can be really revisiting the safety of our family, because it's that of what's outside of our control. And we were moving towards the Capricorn energy, which is really a connection into getting assistance potentially from government payments, things outside of us and corporations, etc. So you guys, Leos, need to be mindful of that. And if that's been a common theme coming up for you, which it would have been for 2.5 years, however that directly hits for you, have you done the work in that area? Have you finalized that energy? We will get both polarities with the eclipse in Cancer. If you've done a lot of work and you made peace with it and it's closed out, yes, you can get the blessings from universe. The middle degree points of wherever that hits for Cancer or Capricorn will be very heavy. So if you're born in the middle of the month, it can be very heavy energy. But nevertheless, you will have subjects that you've been dealing with for 2.5 years come up around that time for good or bad. Virgos, you guys have your placement of Capricorn in your 5th house. So although the eclipse is in Cancer, remember, oh, now my partner's calling me. He's going to have to wait. Then you're going to have the energy of your finances, Virgo. So you were moving away from that and really shifting onto maybe linking in with children, with your 5th house is looking at your relationship, trying to balance that, what you wanted to create, what you wanted to bring, into fruition, children, luck. So it was very much, again, very psychological, I'm feeling. So I do feel there was a lot of psychology linking in with this, and definitely in healing and learning karmic lessons. It was a very unique way of actually delving back into the past to actually unlock what happened back there, where at a financial level, maybe you were hindered when it connected in with family, when it connected in with partnerships, businesses. But the 11th house is very financial. So was it friends? Was it things you were doing, your pastimes? Was it because of a wider group energy, a group that you were mixing with, that something went down and affected you at a financial level? again, looking at that and what you can do now with all that information back there to directly apply it to that new beginning for yourself. So at a spiritual level, yes, something can actually come up for you there, or it can be a direct trigger that pushes you into this new paradigm to connecting with a new way of linking in with that at a healthy level in July. Libra, you guys have your Cancer placement in the 10th house, and that's your career sector. So there may have been, let me look at it, your home environment may have been impacting you. However, and it's unique because the 10th house links into your career, reputation, fame or lack of, again, very emotional energies. Emotional energies relating into each time you felt you were trying to break the glass ceiling, something would come up. Deeply, deeply frustrating, but this transit moving forward can be deeply positive for you with the Gemini placement. So rest assured, things in that degree are going to shape up and change, and this time will serve you. So you're one of the lucky ones, so to speak, depending on what other aspects you have in your chart, whether you have rising and things to that degree. So, a lot of the 9th house for Libras will link into networking, technology. 9th house can even be, linking in with multicultural energies. And to balance the 9th house, it does say utilize communication, which is ironic because it's in Gemini, which links into that. So if you're working in the communication sector, or you're using Zoom and things like that, or similar to what I'm doing here, that can actually benefit you in this next 2.5-year transit. With the Capricorn energy, it's giving you guys a bit of a break, because we do have Pluto going retrograde, and it is in your 4th house. Now we have 3 more years of Pluto in Capricorn. A lot of those spiritual lessons you guys have learnt, but it's a tying out of that, and then it'll be loosened up and it'll be moving into your luck sector, which will be a little bit nicer. But again, remember, Pluto can be very, hey, this is what needs to change. This is what's not working. So you'll have a transit with it being in your 5th house. Again, I would say, really tapping into what you've learned through that, what you need to change, what your belief systems are to do with career, potentially in the 10th house, not being able to really manage it a lot due to the fact that you were dealing with a lot of home-related dynamics, or having ascension symptoms, and potentially if you did move towards working at home, that could have been complicated as well, but maybe that was what you were being pushed towards. So balancing those two areas, which Cancer is very much home energy, Capricorn can be bigger energies. It's looking at that, and it kind of might have been for you a lot of house movement. Scorpio, for you guys, you're being hit double because we do have the full moon in Scorpio, and on the 22nd we're going to have the new moon in Gemini, which will hit all our Gemini nodal placements. For you guys, Scorpio, your communication sector really was activated. So having to speak your truth, having to look at things from a very different perspective, and your religious beliefs of the past might have really changed. The way you were able to travel and move, again, really moving towards, especially if you're career orientated, and we're looking at this from a career perspective, communication energies and having to work from home, or having to work remotely, or needing to explain things and do things to that degree. There can be a lot of that frequency coming up. But with the 9th house that you moved away from, belief systems can be coming up, something to do with your children, looking at what's happening at a global level, that can be coming up. And some of you may have wished to, wondering how this is all going to affect you, but it's very obviously, you guys being Scorpio and linking with Pluto, you're going to be digging deep and looking at what the real thing is going on here. It's almost like this sleuth energy of a detective that again, be careful with your psychology. What have you found? If you find something, are you willing to then take the direct steps to change certain dynamics? So there can be this very superstitious energy that comes up. And with the 9th house, anything that's been buried at an emotional level, to do with your belief systems or your feelings, or, what your purpose is, that can be coming up around that time. But just look at it, embrace it if you've been doing work on it. it can even be the career sector you're working in. Maybe you don't directly relate to it anymore and you haven't moved and you haven't done anything, and now it's time where you're going to actually have to look at that. So we then have Aries, and you guys I kind of feel sorry for Aries, and you guys will be operating very similar to a Libra because you're the shadow sign of Libra. And again, with the nines, it does hit your 10th house, which is your career sector. And the Gemini energy is a communication energy, and the 4th house is Cancer. So you may not have been able to spend as much time at home. You may have been all work and no home energy. Maybe even looking at what you believed home was, and it hasn't quite turned out to be such. So there is a lot of regressing back. Again, a lot of psychology linking into that. Does a home make a home, or do the people make the home? And I think that's really the determination that you guys are coming to, that you're looking at it from a very spiritual perspective. And that could have been a very testing energy, trying to create that. 4th house is where we're trying to create that. We're trying to tap into that perfect energy of what we directly, feel that energy is. And there could have been very testing times with family members, unwell family members, things to that degree. 4th house placement can be a lot of chops and changes. So for you guys, that might have been a very testing time, but it does land in your 4th house. And just be really, really mindful, because the 4th house is also linking into Pluto, and Pluto is currently retrograde. So just be careful of anything that you've got to end. If you haven't done that and you haven't tied up those loose ends, tap into what's going on, I would say, with what is coming up for you with Pluto. If you feel that you're noticing in May something, get it done now, because it's going to come up in June, and you don't want that surprise there. It'll be a nasty surprise. Look at your paperwork, look at your documents. We've got a lot of Mercury energy. Mercury, I'm telling you, this whole thing, it can be, we've already got Venus retrograde, plus it's Mercury orientated energy, which is communication, travel. It's in the energy of Cancer, which can link in with family at a collective level. If you've got children and paperwork and exes and things to that degree, this is where all that fine print's coming to a close. It's coming to a head, and it's like pay the ferryman. That's really what I'm getting coming through. Taurus, you guys, it's your communication sector, and you might have had a very arduous time with trying to explain yourself to family to help them understand how you see things. So again, there can be situations coming up for you guys that are unfinished. And the Capricorn energy is, again, your spiritual beliefs. It could be to do with a relative. It could be to do with travel. It could be, again, an ex that lives in a foreign country. For some of you, not all of you, because it's going to relate to all of you very individually, depending on, what the themes have been coming up. But again, communication is the key, which is kind of like an oxymoron, because it might be out of your control with that placement. But there can be a lot of words said, and at the 21-degree point, if something has been unfinalized and you've left it simmering on the cooker, and you're seeing this come up with Pluto, please, please, please address it, because it can get nasty. But it's to close a cycle. It can be an uncomfortable energy going in, but it will be better going out, in a sense that it will finalize that energy. It will close that chapter, and we will be recreating the new chapter moving forward. Now, any eclipse takes 6 months to roll out. So in saying, bang, we can have a situation pop up, and we do have the new nodal energy there to close that cycle out. Even if you've made the decisive action to close a way of being out, it takes a gradual process at a spiritual level or directly a 3D level of 6 months. And we have 3 eclipses. So it's like the first one's going to be a full moon in Sagittarius on the 5th. It's a lunar eclipse, 6 months. That's Jupiter energy, growth, expansion, depending on where that hits for you. Book a reading and I can give you the interpretation. Career, romance, children. Solar eclipse in Cancer, again, another 6 months. July hits full moon in Capricorn eclipse, a lunar eclipse on the 5th, another 6 months. So all those areas at a collective level are being moved over to 2021. Probably January, February we're looking at, which I think we've got used to that, haven't we? January, February, it's like March. The year sort of starts in March, really. Gemini, you guys are going to be really, your assets, your money, and Taurus as well, I will say, this year moving forward, and, with the energy of Gemini, it's your second house, it's your financial sector. There can be something, the second house can be shared resources as well. If you have been sharing resources, you're going to have a very unique transit going there, where money situations can be changing there for good or bad, but it can be coming from you. So there can be a very beneficial aspect there for you guys individually. Now, Gemini, you guys are going to be forced to be incredibly independent over the next 2.5 years. Don't second guess yourself. It's a very positive placement. With the energy of Cancer, it falls in your second house of your finances and it can be shared resources, but it's your professional resources. There will be a lot of development there, and I do feel it being beneficial for you. But any trigger or wound that you have there, it needs to be looked at, because as it moves, you are going to have you're going to have benefits there because it comes into your first house. So deal with the Cancer energy first, which can be maybe a trigger point coming up, belief systems, looking outside yourself energetically, potentially, or people needing on you. But moving forward with the nodes being in Gemini, again, trust yourself, because there can be massive movement in your career sector, in your personal growth, in your spiritual development, and it will be very beneficial for you. Cancers, you guys, need I say more? It's your first house placement. Now, the main energy that it was impacting for Capricorn, which is what you've been guided to move towards, moving away from maybe wounds inside yourself, wounds connecting in with family, what people expected from you, what people needed from you, how it directly impacted you. Or look at your Aries placement. It's your 10th house, your career sector. And then the Capricorn energy of what you were supposed to be moving towards is a solid connection that works, right? But it's Capricorn energy. Were you in codependent connections? Were people codependent on you? And that's a real gnarly. Saturn and Pluto were really hitting that. And it's looking at where you can be very dual. Potentially with a like-minded individual. You need to be with a like-minded individual, and potentially either you or other energies were pushing you into a box like the Cinderella slipper that just didn't fit. It didn't fit, and it drove you crazy. So 7th house placement, plus we have Libra and retrograde, which does correlate with the 7th house. And Libra for you guys is your 4th house. It's where you need balance. You need balance and justice in that area. So you will find something to do with a contract can come up in a home-related dynamic when Juno goes direct at the end of the month. You can be assessing what home is, how it feels, what your judgment is. You want balance. You want equal give and take in that energy. And with Juno going direct, you're going to assess that. If something's not in balance, you're going to cast it away. You're going to choose what you feel directly is correct for you. Some of you, it may mean movement. And definitely with the nodes moving into Gemini, it hits your 12th house. So again, at a psychological level, we're supposed to move towards the Gemini energy over the next 2.5 years. For you guys, you need to tap into, stop thinking so much about what you say. It can almost be wounds linking into, you can't change how another person's going to take it. Now, it's a spiritual house. It can be information coming to you that's outside of your control that there's nothing you can do about. How it directly affects your psyche will be how you deal with it. Now, there's always 2 sides to the story. Well, there's 3, right? What you can do is within your circle of concern, and it's your spirituality. So you could have some great insight through what you just moved through over the last 2.5 years. And I'll tell you even longer. I'll be honest. You're intuitive. You underestimate yourself. Gemini energy is travel. Some of it you may not have control. You may actually need to travel more. Let's not look at just what's happening in the collective right now. Some are essential workers. You could be a nurse, whatever you are. You're going to have more movement over the next 2.5 years. This can be career and travel and what you'll need to do to make that happen. Mind over matter may be testing your mental agility. But again, it's communication. You could be working in IT. Remember, from 6 to 12 is outside of your control. It's something that happens. It's a direct experience. Let me look further. And your career sector is the 6th house. So your health and your mind need to directly be in alignment. If you are struggling, you need to understand both with how your health directly affects your mind. And I do feel many of you can be having energies of checkups and things to that degree, because the health energy is activated. You're trying to move away from it. So there could be old energies playing out that are skeletons of the past that are directly coming in. And it's outside of your control now. So it's accepting them, but moving forward. And really with the Gemini energy, it's Mercury orientated. It's movement. It's moving forward, deal with the wound, keep going anyway. But there can be a lot of travel around you guys. And definitely with the 1st house placement, there will be something coming up relating to family, relating to you. A lot of crosswise, Mercury. So there's a lot of information, but it's trying to reach a closure point. It's trying to work out what that looks like now. And whatever we left behind, again, we got Venus retrograde. Then we're having Mercury in June enter Cancer. Then we're having the solar eclipse on the 21st at the critical degrees in your 1st house placement. So whatever that theme is, do we have a Cancer in the house? Care to share? I'm getting a headache as soon as I'm tuning into the Cancer energy. Oh, it's making me a bit tense. Okay. Next one. 8th house. Oh, Sag. You guys are really hitting it hard, aren't you? Okay, well, it does make sense because Sagittarius, the nodes are going to be in your house, your 1st house placement, for 2.5 years. I do actually predict a lot of travel for you. If you are looking at career sectors, whatever you're going to have, it's going to be more involved. It's your 1st house placement, but it can mean movement. It's going to link in also to your romance house. So some of you, there will be deep healing coming into your romance sector. It can directly impact, and the relationships that will be solid in that are the ones that can understand the process that Sagittarius is going to go through, because it's 1st house placement and they're moving towards being more open in relationships, but it's marriages, contracts, partnerships. So they're going to have a big, big can of worms there. This is a lot of work, a lot of busy energy. It can be movement, a lot of day-to-day energy, travel. The work that they're doing may link into travel. Their home, you may change your home location, especially there can be a lot of needing to talk to various people. And I'm seeing with the 3rd house placement of Aquarius, this could also be happening to you guys right now, Sagittarius, where if you're finding you're trying to make everyone bloody happy, it's because you have the 3rd house in Aquarius and Saturn is in Aquarius at the moment. So all this communication, everything energetically coming at you, how do you pull that whole picture together? Now, something to do with energy of a lost loved one can be coming up because it is 8th house. It's very Pluto. So around this eclipse, if you haven't emotionally dealt with a wound, it's in the 8th house, which is, are you codependent is one question we need to ask. When we look at the 8th house, codependency, it's you're moving out of being codependent. Where can you then directly come into self and become dependent on thyself? That energy is there, but it is births, deaths, money, legacies, and wills. Something for some of you can come up linking into very Mars combative energy and the energy of Pluto. And Pluto during that cycle will be retrograde. So if you have, and you're a Sagittarius and had lost somebody, something of an energy of either an ending, what that means, how resilient you are, how much you've learned to bounce back on your feet after a cycle ends and a new one begins. This is going to test that placement for you. Next zodiac sign, Capricorn. God, your work would have been great. You know, any Capricorn in the house? You might have been looking at people like, you guys are crazy. Your Cancer placement is in your 7th house. For you guys, something relating into marriages, contracts, partnerships can be coming up during June, because we'll have Mercury in Cancer, and we're going to be having Juno going direct at the end of May, and it does fall in the 7th house. Libra also for you guys links in with your 10th house of career, luck, and fame. It can at times link to other parent. So it's a double whammy for you guys, but I'm feeling as though closure points, changes. I'm visually seeing somebody wanting to move in or move out. It will depend, and some of you, this can be a child energy, but I'm also seeing potential new partners coming in. More balance, I feel. More balance in a connection that you're in, or the way you are seeing things. Now, when you are most balanced at work, both will flow energetically. It's a bit like you need your Cancer and Capricorn energy at all times balanced, and that's impossible, but it's working through that aspects of adversity, for that to balance out. There can be something coming up with a contract, so make sure, because Mercury will be retrograde, right? And it does fall in your 7th house. Read your documents. If you're missing paperwork right now, start doing it now. Go through all your documents, very Pluto energy. Read your fine print. All your bank accounts, are they up to date? Is your lease up to date? Read the fine print. Did you get a water heater broken and you needed to fix it? Something to that degree. Read your fine print. It's Mercury retrograde. Keep your receipts too during that time. Fun. Okay. Next, Aquarius. Well, you guys are interesting because you have Saturn in Aquarius at the moment, and Cancer is your career sector, but it's also your health. Emotionally and spiritually, Capricorn's in your 12th house. So you may be very politically orientated right about now. You may have some and again, Aquarians are you are linked directly to Saturn, because Saturn has 2 placements, both Capricorn and Aquarius. So you really see wider group energy. The 12th house for you guys has been a bit tumultuous, but the frequency of revisiting the energy of family, maybe your views differ from theirs. Maybe you feel you don't directly link in. That's okay, doll. Maybe you feel you don't directly link in with that energy, and you're thinking, why am I so black sheep of the family energy? It's not. You're an Aquarian, okay? You're unique. That placement from a young age moving through, it is a lot of self-development. You feel like the black sheep of the family. Collectively, all of us, when we do have Saturn move into Aquarius, especially with the nodes being in Gemini, you're going to want to fit. It's going to be the most awkward energy. You want to fit into the crowd. And if you don't, you're the outsider. And Gemini is very social. So, and it's gossip, it's communication, it's overload of information. Where do I fit? Who am I now? This transformation we're going through. So, for Aquarians, and my daughter's been going through this, she's 16. The more I research astrology, the more I understand her. And it's okay. Like, this is normal. It's part of the process. An astrologist said that, Aquarians going through that process really would just like to go and disconnect and tap into that codependent energy to tap out because it's 12th house energy with the Capricorn. That's pretty possible psychologically. But again, you can use it in a very healthy way, be very gentle with yourself, be very reflective and understanding of your belief systems, your health and well-being, as above as below. Be looking at that and get into alignment around that time. Try not to take family so personal. They are them, you are you. It is okay. It can be testing though, so something in that link can be coming up for you guys at that time. Your home, because Cancer energy is your intuition. Again, you got 12th house placement. It's your home. It's from where you work from. It can be an egoic kind of belief as well, from where we come. So look at that, and hopefully that will help you and guide you. Last but not least, Pisces, and we will have Neptune going retrograde in June as well. So yeah, let's not forget the Pisces placement. All of us collectively need to look back in 2017-18, huge ascension symptoms, so many retrogrades. It was gnarly. I didn't like it. On the floor crying. Neptune and Pisces is going to reactivate that. So that can make even that Cancer placement worse. Pisces, for you guys, you may be very analytical towards self. Maybe people are asking at you, maybe people are placing their expectations on you or you on others. However that directly hits. The Cancer placement for you is in your luck house. It's in your romance house. And again, at a very spiritual level, potentially, you have been dealing with a lot of family-related dynamics, or your family directly had impacted maybe your career sector, your luck, your home directly might have done such as well. But your home, you could be really social in 2020 and beyond. You do have a lot of movement with your home energy. You will have a lot of visitors in your home in 2020 and beyond. So it's very social, or you may in general be very social yourself. What you're moving away from is the 10th house energy. Something you learned in your career sector, you will be moving towards a fine balance, and it can be networking. It can actually be working from home. So some of you may actually create a home business. Regardless, with the Cancer placement and the Capricorn placement, your finances, again, you may be getting money from external sources and your finances do link in. And during the eclipse, if as long as you've been doing everything correctly, you could get some windfalls coming through between June and July. And again, with the retrograde cycles, the same can apply, because we do have Saturn, Pluto energy falling in your 11th house of finances. With the retrograde, there can be money that's returned to you that's owed. So if you've been waiting on something to that degree, that can be coming up too. With the luck energy, how do I place it? How do I describe this to you guys? I feel you guys were very focused on your abundance, on your career sector, on where your luck was, and accumulating those things. It could have been a very social time for you, but some of the things outside of yourself, which can directly link in with the Cancer energy, which is family, home, your relationships, your intuition, your psychology, because it's very moon energy, would have been at times a little bit testing. And I do feel it's, when you are getting into alignment, you find and you detach, luck comes towards you. So again, it's very psychological, it's very spiritual. When you purge, when you release, things fall into alignment. Some of you have been moving away from career sectors. Some of you have been maybe not feeling directly grounded in home. If you haven't attained a home, that energy can be really coming up for a view, and it can be changing around June. Now, if it's been in your ethers and you've needed to, but you haven't directly dealt with it, that will be coming up. If you have, you're in alignment, there can be blessings and changes happening there. But I am feeling overall there will be more a social year for you moving forward with the nodes. Any questions in the house? Hi, love. How are you? You would not know how to respond. Did I miss something while I was gabbling on? What did I miss? Hit me with the gossip. Good old Gemini energy. Very detailed. Does it work? Do you understand what I'm saying? Has this prepared you any? Okay, I needed to break it down for you. June's going to be heavy. We have Neptune retrograde. We will have Mercury retrograde. We already have Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Juno going direct. You think you skipped Cancer. If I could just send a big bunch of hugs to Cancer and Capricorns for this next 2-month transit, and anyone that has an aspect in that chart, we can do this. I was driveling listening to you. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, ouch. Okay. So we also then, it is a very active year. Now, yeah, it's active. And we're going to have, oh God. Okay. And we're going to have Chiron retrograde in June. Is it June or July? It's July. Oh God. Okay, now we need the safety rafter. We need the bubble wrap. We need the, little neon lights. Look, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if you can't cry, laugh. Laugh. Let's collect a ruin for this June transit. I do feel at the moment, and it's funny because I've numbered it on the back. It's 11, 1, 1, 1. There is a big change coming up. We were born into this, therefore we were made for this. So we just need to trust ourselves. Is it an inconvenience? Yes. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Is the world going to be the same? No. No. But we have changed through this. Okay. This directly correlates with the planet, the moon. This ruin connects with the moon. All right. And what were we talking about? The eclipse in Cancer, which is a moon sign. Element Earth, get grounded. Okay. To me, that's warning. I'm just taking it as a warning, meaning ice. Okay. Now, we can't actually tell if it's upright or reverse, so we'll give a bit of both. Yes. Frustration. Frustration of plans, obstacles, imposed rest, stillness. Inner stillness, concentration, appreciation of the present, acceptance, surrender. It's closing a cycle out. It makes sense. Egomania, blindness. Now, this is if you're just not coping with what is done and dusted. If you can't, let it go. Let it go. You're going to suffer in your jocks. Because it's the ending of that cycle. Now, this is a 2.5-year transit. Abraham Hicks, when we're going through our ego and we're actually purging, it's like we all have been here. So relate to me here. Help me out. When you have been frustrated on a situation, doesn't it take you back to your teenage years where you wanted to have a bloody temper tantrum? You're like, I don't want to. That's how it feels when we're dealing with something that we're not willing to let go. And we're coming through the third eye and we're going, oh, shit. And then you get tired because you've been doing that. It's almost like clenching so much that, you have to let it go. Drag or be pulled. Abraham Hicks, you're going down the rapids. You're going to end up down the end. Okay, you're going to get down the bottom. You can row backwards all you like. It's inevitable. We're moving towards the North Node. You need to leave the South Node. South Node of Cancer. It's past. It's what it was. You needed to change the script. Did you try? Did it change that scenario? Did it not? Let it go. Let it go. You got to let it go. Did you make peace with that? Hi, Karen. You got to let it go. Did I miss something? Now, through that process, I've got a headache. And it's only what? I don't even know what time it is. It's 6:35 Perth, Western Australia time. I hope this helped. If you're wanting a booking, you can go to the link below. I will come back a little bit later. I've got a lovely client I need to reorganize my schedule temporarily until the buses are open, because I didn't realize that between 3 and 4, I need to just block that one little section off because I need to collect my daughter. I wish I had a helicopter. I feel like I've gone back to toddler years. I can't win. I got a lovely cappuccino maker for Mother's Day. See, be careful with your manifestation at the moment. It's off the hook. You think something, it's happening. And you can actually change it. So Shelley asked me the question. She said, do you think it's that you tapped into that radio station of what was coming, or do you think you were manifesting it? I said, both. But when you get stronger at that with your third eye and your crown chakra, if you don't like that feeling, tune out of it right away, because you actually attract and embody that and you make it come true. So if you're sensing something, can you like, ooh, tune out and breathe and think of something else very urgently, so please. Very, very urgently. Letting go. Yeah, so whatever that placement was, feel free to tell me how it directly relates to you. I'd love to know, especially with those placements, what I interpreted, how it directly relates to your zodiac sign. In what you've been directly dealing with, over the last 2.5 years, because this has been, it would have even been with Chiron being in Pisces. So when you think about it, it's like, mate, lifeboat, energy, exhaustion. Are we there yet? Please know more. It was all to remember, think back in your life of everything you are right now. At some point, something you dealt with will serve a purpose. Oh, you're up late. Hello, Scotland. A very warm welcome. And I really do want to do some astrology charts for countries and kings and queens, because the Capricorn energy, Saturn energy and the 10th house energy can connect in with kings and queens and empowerment. Wards estate. So I do want to do some interpretations. Definitely there's going to be changes with the Queen in the UK. And that's with her birth chart, because she's got the nodes in Gemini, I believe. But yeah, lots of changes. She has a lot of Cancer placements. So for her personally, she's going through a big change. So is her son, and her 2 grandsons. They all have major aspects of the Leo energy, and Leo's really going to be going through deep changes. Leos. Be careful during these eclipses, because it's going to hit your chart. It's going to hit your first house placement, because Sun and Moon ecliptic energy, we will also get aspects of Leo in there too, I feel. So again, that's personal reading, because that's big. Who would be the luckiest one with that? Let me look. Libra. I'm looking. Scorpio. Yes, you guys too. Watch your health though. Who else? lot of reflection for Taurus during the retrograde cycle in June with your finances and your dreams. Gemini, you guys during June will be assessing your finances again, move into your Aries and Chiron energy. Assess if there's a wound, what are you fighting for? Where are you placing your energy? Is it balanced? A lot of financial assessments in June. And they will be potentially for, you do have a lot of luck with that placement because it's the 11th house is Aries. Who else has luck? Okay, Cancer, you guys, your money will come from change. So changes you make, even if they come drastically, because it is in the house Taurus, the changes you make or the changes that directly occur are what are going to bring you money. So, you're going through a very transformative state. You guys need to just be accepting of that. But it is beneficial. It's going to help you at a spiritual level. Just try and work with what comes in for you. But, we have the Uranian energy there for a while yet. Who else? Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are going to be assessing your finances and partnerships as well in June and at the end of this month. Capricorn, money-related dynamics and some wins can come up in the next few weeks. Aquarius as well. That is going to be for 2.5 years, but you need to create a new way of doing such. But it's what experience you have is going to serve you during this time. It's over the next 2.5 years, whatever you live through will end up being your, will help you become a money winner. You're so lucky, really. You got no idea with the 11th house placement in Sagittarius. It's very Jupiter energy. We do have Jupiter retrograde at the moment, so you could be really pinching pennies at the moment, but it's where you can fine-tune that energy, meditate upon it. How do you want to grow? Jupiter at the moment is in Capricorn, so it does mean we have to work hard. And there's all these karmic lessons linking them with Jupiter, but it is because we're having this turnover of new energy. Any questions? Then I'm going to go have my coffee and my naughty, and I'm going to call my man. Ugh. Paperwork. Do your paperwork, guys. There's so much paperwork. And Mars going retrograde towards, when's that? September. Any heavy energy you need to deal with, do it now. Because you might be a little bit more unmotivated around that time. Anywho, if you have any questions, I may come back a little bit later. I'm trying to deal with my clients and editing the website, and I need to work out whether I'm going to pre-record the videos or come to you live, depending on how you like it. Feel free to respond under the box. What about twins right now? It will directly relate into that too. I'll do an update to do with the twin flame. If you guys want to, I mean, some twins are very peeved at the moment. So, I mean, I've been doing updates on twins. Oh, gosh, I was with twin, at a connection with twin, reconciled with twin. And I've been coaching twin flames for 4 years, but some of you do have some healing to do, and I'm really looking at how I can transform that energy. You got to, as a reader and a twin flame, because I'm a twin flame, you have to be very careful about how you explain things to certain twins that are further back in the journey. You guys can accidentally take things so personal, and it's the amount of responsibility you find you have as you move through your twin flame journey. You can actually fast track your journey, but at the end state of it, it's directly connected to your healing. You think it's not because you keep looking at your twin, but a lot of it is you become dual energy. And with that dual energy, you will find synchronistic patterns come up of blockages. So the coaching that I do with the clients that are twins, which I would say my twin flames I coach. I also coach in various other areas of your life because it does connect in with twin flame path. This is a very karmic time because it is the energy of Cancer. So if a person is in a karmic connection, karmic contract, karmic healing in the mind, this is where if they have been unable to let it go, it's going to come up. Now with the Gemini nodes, I'm seeing there's a lot of communication because we're going to have Mercury in Cancer. We're going to have the solar eclipse in Cancer. We're also going to have the full moon in Sagittarius. Full moon. How do I explain it? From my perspective, it's purging what didn't grow. Well, and the Jupiter energy, which is Sagittarius, does link to divine masculine's ascension. With that growth, and it's at 15 degrees, it can be a very, depending upon the degree point, it can be negative, positive. Certain degree points, 13 degrees, for instance, and depending on what zodiac sign they're in, all have a different kind of conversational pace. So I'll write the notes down here, and the next one I'll do is masculine, feminine astrology and what I see coming through for the next transit between here and June. Now, don't take it personal if during Venus retrograde you do or don't hear. Everything is divinely guided. You need to trust it. If you do hear from them, you're meant to hear from them. If you don't hear from them, you just ride this out. Because this energy here in June is going to be gnarly. And it's to close things out that don't relate to your forward trajectory. It's recognizing the changes in the weathers. Yeah, some of it, look, I'll be brutally honest. If you are angry at your twin and you are coming on anybody's video and looking at this, and this is, I've been where you've been, but you need to grasp this. How do I place it? Say, because I'm a twin, I know what this is like. If you still embody that anger, that resentment, and you think a sorry is going to take that wound out of you, I hate to break it to you, still to this day, I am dealing with those wounds. But it is my job to make peace with the wound that now lives inside me, because it will be there forever. And unless I make peace with it, I'm going to have a bloody uncomfortable life, right? It doesn't matter how it got in there. And half of them have occurred from various individuals, from various scenarios. The reality is it lives inside me. And I'm the host. So I'm hosting this energy inside me. And unless I can find a healthier way of negotiating with the terrorist of the energy inside me, which is my wound, spiritually speaking, I'll probably get in trouble for saying that word on YouTube. It's a word, YouTube, okay? You will never be at peace, basically. So you have to find a healthy way of doing that. When you're stating you're mad at your twin, during the initial stage of that wound being there, it is perfectly normal for you to feel like a victim. If you want to keep attracting a similar energy, you're going to continue to attract a similar energy until you've made peace with it, because you acknowledge it, you see it, you do the process, and then you come back and you go, okay, now that I'm in awareness that my intuition was not the problem, because it is not my job to actually tell a person how to relate to me. It is for me to be me. Now, if you came correct and that was okay, but you saw some warning signs and you still dance that dance, you do have a part in that storyline. So now to change the new narrative moving forward, you need to dance in that story in a different way. So I take a lot of responsibility now, being in cognitive awareness of why and how things happen. When you hear certain frequencies, the way people talk, you will know if that person has healed enough to be ready. If that person has gone from one relationship to you, know they're not ready. And that's with you too. There is a spiritual process to do that healing. And it's not to say you can't be in contact. If you are becoming that person's counselor or you're expecting them to become yours, you're not ready for a true traditional connection. And it's a spiritual connection. So there's various aspects of that healing. But when you do notice comments, go back and read your comments you wrote, right? You will understand. It's like, sometimes we do use technology, which is Gemini energy, as a diary. Go and look at some of your comments that you write. If you're really triggered and you're like, they did this to me, they did that. If you feel they're not checking into how you are, have you actually stopped and said, hey, how am I? Have you asked yourself how you are? It shouldn't matter if you think they're that toxic, what they think about you. Have you stopped and actually acknowledged the fact that you're wonderful? You're imperfect as well, and you're human. And maybe this, yes, it did happen to you, but if at a psychological level you realized X, Y, and Z, the energy of victim consciousness, perpetrator, codependent energies, enabler, victim, when you notice all these energies and you've done work on it, you become your own therapist and you very much understand if a person has a blockage. And you don't expect more than what they're able to give because you're like, that's irrational. They can't even look after themselves. How can they look after you? Does that make sense? I'll do an update on it. And again, first waivers, second waivers, I will do a reading on based on the fact that you two are getting bombarded the most. Some of you are a bit further back, and that's because you haven't made peace with that wound yet. You won't, I'm not going to say it because you'll unsub. You can unsub, I really don't care. The reality is, if you do have that blockage, and that's from my own personal experience, which I will come onto YouTube next, and I will share a very personal story with you. And I'm really in two minds about whether I do or don't, but it may help those of you that are dealing with toxic situations understand the reasons why these things happen. Okay? If you haven't subbed, if you want a coaching session, the link is below. I connect them with the astrology for our ascension sometimes, and that's because I bloody needed it. That's why I started looking at the astrology, and it helped me understand, what my life path is, where I'm moving towards, and I kind of find it quite amusing, especially since the nodes for me are in my communication house. I think it's funny. So Gemini is my religion, education, foreign countries, travel. It also is balanced out by its Mercury energy, and you balance the 9th house out with communication, which Librans are good for communication. So again, it's navigating technology. So this can be where business relates to the other side of the world. What am I doing now? Hi. So, some of us needed to go through that process, and you can understand the interpretation of the astrology and how it relates. But it's for your ascension, so that's where that came in for me. I'm a psychic medium, so I directly do channel the dead, passed over loved ones. I can go forward and backwards. And I've studied twin flame path because I've been on it over 20-something years, and I get it. And I had to look at my life, and and so I've seen flaws in some of the scripts. I also then take the information from my clientele and culminate it in a synchronistic fashion. So you're getting a lot of information. You're getting astrology. You're getting my 20-odd year experience in my twin flame journey, which has been deeply educational. Um, and then the psychic energy as well. Okay. Love and light. I'll talk to you guys later.